Greetings, everyone, and welcome to the first ever 13th episode of Baseball versus the World, a podcast about how baseball relates to the world and how the rest of the world relates to baseball, part of the Just Baseball Media Podcast Network. I'm your host, as always, and guide on this maiden voyage through the vast cosmos of all things baseball, from the culture to the players to the random topics I come up with on a Saturday night when I am potentially inebriated just a tiny bit. Whatever it is, I got you covered here. I'm also a staff writer over at Just Baseball and the host of the Locked On Padres podcast. But enough about me, folks. How many times have I told you all this? I will only allow illustrious guests on my show. Only. You have to be illustrious. You can't just be okay. You can't just be a friend. You have to be magnificent. And that is, of course, true with today's guest. You might know him from a variety of places. He's a play-by-play broadcaster. You've heard him probably listening to your favorite prospects home run call down in the minor leagues. He does a bunch of minor league baseball content and his own personal YouTube content that he occasionally flirts with. And he does some video digital content for the Springfield Cardinals. And he is a former host of the Locked On Angels and co-host of the Locked On Yankees podcast. Is my friend and the super talented Mr. Steve Granado. Sir, how you doing?
Dude, you just ran through my whole resume. That was immaculate. I hope you did that off the dome. I'm assuming you did that off the dome because, it's such an easy resume to go through.
Look, I did most of it off the dome. The only thing I did it was the team. I forgot which one it was. I was like, you didn't see it, but I was frantically typing in the Twitter search bar. I was like, wait, which team was it against? What was it again?
Beautiful.
Hey, look, man, as someone who's not great with minor leagues and keeping up with them, I'm proud of myself. Just a tiny bit on that one, honestly. I'm proud of myself.
I love it, man. I love it. How are you doing, Jav? I'm going to be the first guest. I'm going to assume to ask how you're doing.
You know what? It's true. No one gives a crap about me. They're like, whatever, loser. Look on your dumb little podcast that you just came out with. No, I'm doing well. We're closing in on the end of July. It is July 23rd by the time everybody is listening to this. 13 episodes in, haven't been canceled yet. We're doing well. Padres are doing okay. Just Baseball's doing okay. And we got the trade deadline coming up. Hopefully nothing breaks in the middle of this podcast. I mean, actually, it'd be fun as like archival footage if it did actually. So I take that back. But if everyone's wondering, why is Steve on today's episode other than the fact that he is awesome? Well, we are going to be talking about baseball movies, sort of. All right. And I know everyone might be saying, hey, didn't you do that already? Well, we did. We talked about the best baseball scenes. It was me and Colby Olson. Go look at that episode. That was a few months actually ago. You can go check that out. Today we are talking about the not so good, the weird. That is the nicest version of some of the scenes that we're going to get into today, and then movies as a whole. So this is just kind of going to be a fun back and forth about the not so great, the wacky, and the weird, and the things that frankly don't age well at all in baseball movies, and in also some non-baseball movies too. And we're just going to kind of compose our list and just get into it and let it ride. So Steve, are you ready, man?
Dude, we've been ready. We've been behind the scenes, been trying to get this done for a
while.
We
have. Look, Steve is very busy and I'm very lazy, so it's a really hard combination to figure out, right? I want to start off. I want to come out guns blazing, man.
Please.
I want to come out guns blazing. I would argue this is my number one for the weirdest, dumbest. I haven't decided what the rankings will be called for this, but we start with the Sandlot. And I got a little bit of crap for this from some people. And frankly, those people are stupid and I don't want to hear from them. To me, when it comes to bad baseball movies, that's a different topic. When it comes to bad baseball scenes, I think that there are a lot. I think that there are some that are bad in the ridiculous way that you kind of love. And I will be bringing up some of those in a little bit. This, to me, is a scene that I used to have The Sandlot as one of my 10 favorite movies in general. It used to be my favorite. This isn't the only reason it fell off of my list. Another major reason is that Moneyball is just so much better. But I think that for me, it still bothers me. And this is not me doing any sort of pandering or anything like that. I want to start off, Steve. Squints Palledorous from The Sandlot. You know him. He's got the glasses. He's a little weirdo. The pool scene has aged about as well as like Milk from 1925.
See, you've talked about this on this show already, to my knowledge.
I know. I have talked about this, and I want to come out again and remind people that there is no baseball movie scene Okay, there's not a lot of baseball movie scenes that I think are worse than this. And the reason why is because in The Sandlot, it is established that these are stupid children. And I talked about on the Best Baseball Movie Scenes podcast that I think the scene in which they yell at each other and say, "You play a ball like a girl," is great because that's how kids talk. When I was a kid, you were cooked. That was the equivalent of the Kendrick Lamar Meet the Gramps thing. Like if someone dropped that on you, man, right? Like if someone dropped that on you when you're in that age, it works. It is a perfect reflection of how they are, because then the very next scene, the dichotomy, what they show you is, what do these dumb kids do who think that that is an insult to say you play ball like a girl? They go and chew tobacco on like a Ferris wheel ride. It shows you these are dumb children. The reason why the squint scene with making out and basically assaulting Wendy Peppercorn, let's just be real, that's what it is. The reason why it's also bad is because older Scotty Smalls is narrating the scene and going like, she should have kicked his butt that day. Correct. And it would have been warranted and more. But it was cool. That's what he says. And this is an adult. So it is therefore almost approving of what he did there. And it is super lame. And her reaction to, for some reason, liking it, that is how I know that is a scene written by men. And only men. No one was consulted on this. It actively, and what stinks is because it's such a famous scene, right? Like when I first saw it, it was hilarious. The little like wink he does, and then they're like, "What?" You know what I mean? They're like, "What in tarnation?" When he's freaking out in the pool, and he's just like, "I can't take this anymore." It was legendary when we first saw it, but for me, I just think it ages about as poorly as the Gone with the Wind. Okay, not that bad, but it ages quite
Gone
poorly.
with the Wind's a terrible movie.
Oh yeah, it ages really bad.
Too long. So okay, I have a couple thoughts. One, you're taking a different angle on this than I am. When given said assignment, we did not read the directions.
Don't worry, the rest of them are just bad and silly. This is the only serious bad one, so don't worry. Folks.
Okay. Second thought I have here. You mentioned that he's narrating it, like from the adult version of Smalls is narrating it. Do we know when that is, like when he's thinking back on this time? Because I kind of forgot about that. Do we have like a specific date or a time that we know? Because we obviously know that we're in like the early 1950s when it comes to the actual setting of this. So is this like 1970s, early 1980s?
Maybe. I'm not totally sure, which isn't a fair point to almost like explain why this is how it was thought. But bottom line is, it was a movie made in the 90s. It is, I think that it is when he's adult, when he's at the game, calling Benny Stealing home.
That's obviously what I figured. So that's why, and it looks pretty 80s, 90s. I mean, because it is like 80s, 90s Dodger Stadium, and 80s, 90s baseball player mustache.
Exactly.
On Benny the Jet. I have a lot of gripes with that final scene, by the way, when it comes to the last scene of The Sandlot, if I may. Just
go ahead
on that.
Go ahead. Look, man.
So if Benny the Jet, which by the way, I love The Sandlot, like any
of course, I still
boy of a certain age.
Yeah.
If Benny the Jet is so good and so fast, why is he not playing in this game? Why is he pinch running in the bottom of the ninth? That's just he's so fast, he's so good, and he's such a legend that he's resigned to a bench role in which he's pinch hitting in the bottom of the ninth, and they waited for said runner to get to third. Like, was it a leadoff triple? I mean, I need more context for this situation. Also, another scene, as like you said, a play-by-play broadcaster. Scott Smalls not talking to that microphone even slightly as he's making that call. I mean, if you're listening on AM 570 in Los Angeles trying to listen to that game, you're like, I can't hear you, bro. Like you are literally just walking around the room giving people high fives. I can't hear you.
Yeah, he's still home. He's still home. Yeah, like you definitely can't hear the still home part.
No.
Look, obviously the sentiment of the scene is just basically be like, hey, these two made it through the power of friendship. Yeah. That's how I like reading it.
And it's cool. It's very cool. Like
it's really cool. The thumbs up that he gives, it's really great. It's beautiful for a lot of reasons. I almost like that there's an unspoken vibe to that scene that's like, yeah, maybe they're not like best friends, but they clearly have a connection still. And I feel like that's beautiful because what's so funny is how little in the grand scheme of things our youth and these dumb things like have, but you always remember them. There's something about that. Stand By Me attests to this a lot. They for some reason
Stand By Me as you're talking about that.
Stand By Me is basically the Wire version, for lack of a better descriptor, of The Sandlot in a lot of ways. It's like it's just the more adult, like mature, like Oh, this isn't like little kid silly problems. No, this is like life
Yeah,
problems here.
the Sandlot plus murder.
Sandlot plus murder, literally.
Or I
And
guess not murder. I guess that's manslaughter.
yeah,
Hit
yeah,
by a train.
yeah, exactly. And there's a lot of manslaughter. There's a lot of bad stuff in that. But I mean, that movie is one of my favorites ever, and I literally I can't watch it again. I can't do it. It hit too close to home for me. We won't get into that, but when it comes to the pinch running thing, it's a good point. And I'm wondering, is he just like the Tim LeCastro of the Dodgers?
Timmy Lokes? Is he just a little Timmy Lokes? Is he
You
a
know what I
little...
mean? Like, and by the
Yeah.
way, he's still goated. He literally made the major leagues. Like, that's awesome. But like, I'm wondering, is he a star? He has a nickname, but we've had players in the sport that have nicknames that aren't necessarily like super duper stars.
Sure.
So I'm wondering either he had a day off and they brought him in,
Yeah,
or he's literally only good for stealing bases on like some Billy Hamilton thing.
Scheduled day off. Scheduled day off. He's, you know, it's July. He's kind of nursing
Mhm.
something. You know, that's what's going on.
I lean towards he's a pretty solid player and that he plays for a good team because he has the nickname. And then also it's the Dodgers. They chose Dodgers. I know that that's where the movie, they're in California, but
And he's
even
wearing the
still,
hat.
they could have done Angels. They could have done A's. You know what I mean? They could have done, I think, a lot of different teams. I think that he's good. They show throughout the movie base running is probably his biggest strength, but he hits for power. He hits the cover off the ball, right? So I
He
think this
also doesn't have
guy's
a
like,
position, huh? I
yeah,
don't think he,
he
I don't think he
oh crap.
plays a position.
I don't think he
Or
does. Yeah,
DH.
you're right. I don't think he has a position.
Is he a pre DH in the NL DH?
He was a designated runner, maybe. I don't know.
There you go.
But yeah, I think this is a great take by you. I'm unsure. I'm unsure. And it's filmed very oddly, but it's very endearing. But yeah, for me, ridiculous in a bad way, does not age well as the Ready Peppercorn scene. I feel like no one disputes that. Still love the movie. We both do. It's just, it's not
It's
great. And
real.
when you watch it again, I'm telling you, it feels a little weird. You're watching it like,
It's also a child. I don't know how old the actress was, Wendy Peppercorn, at the time.
Definitely like looks like junior in high school is the vibe that I was getting from her.
It could be a little sketchy in that regard too. It could be a little blank checky.
Yeah. Great point. Great point. But in an effort to not be super down and killjoys or whatever people want to say, Steve, do you have a particular scene you'd like to go with, or do you want me to give you another one?
Okay, so mine's a little. So again, I took a different. I interpreted this question differently. This is an essay question. This is not a yes or no or a multiple choice. So I took it a little differently. I want to quickly mention one thing. We don't have to get into it because I haven't seen this movie. But have you heard of the movie Ed?
No.
It's a movie. It's good luck finding this because if you Google Ed, not really easy thing to find.
I found it, but go ahead. Oh my God. Okay, so this is already ridiculous. I literally don't need to know anything more, but go ahead.
This movie was released in 1996. I haven't seen it. I've only watched the trailer. And I have like a vague memory of this when I was a child in the mid-90s. Ed stars peak Matt LeBlanc. So much so that in the trailer, it says "From Friends," Matt LeBlanc stars. So we know where we're at in time here. But yeah, Ed is a movie about Matt LeBlanc as a minor league baseball player who's really good in practice, but is very bad in games. He's a pitcher, and he gets teamed up, or he gets traded or something. Again, haven't seen the movie, but he gets traded to a team that has a chimpanzee on said team, and the chimpanzee ends up getting traded, and then now Matt LeBlanc goes on a mission to get the chimpanzee back. That's the movie.
It's like someone said, let's do Air Bud, and then they realized, wait, we don't have the rights to that.
Yes.
What if we did this?
Air Bud came out a year later because that's where my mind went. Like, there's nothing in the rule book that says a chimpanzee can't play baseball. Air Bud came out in 97. So this is when movie studios are just like kind of taking chances, which doesn't happen anymore.
Yeah, 100%. This is also, I don't know if people knew this, I was just looking up in the Wikipedia page. This is actually a prequel to Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, if people were unfamiliar. So go check out that trilogy. Really good stuff. Literally,
I did want to say one thing real quick too before I forget. If you watch the trailer on YouTube, which is uploaded by Rotten Tomatoes Classic Trailers, the only synopsis that the Rotten Tomatoes crew put in the description is, you're not ready for this, A monkey plays baseball. That's it. That's literally on top of it says like subscribe to this, subscribe to that, and then it says the official trailer #1, Matt LeBlanc movie HD. A monkey plays baseball.
Just incredible stuff. I really appreciate. Look, there's nothing more beautiful than an elevator pitch for movies. It's like, hey, like the ones that you're saying yes to, right? Like, hey, I got one ready. One day of the year, crime is legal. Boom, you're in.
Yeah,
right. You hear that, you're in. Someone walks into Universal Studios. Yo, hear me out. They walk in. They got like a brown bag. They're stumbling. Like, yeah, I got one for you. Monkey plays baseball, man. Like, and how hired. Also, we're getting the guy from Friends. You know what I mean? And he's like, "Oh, really?" And they're like, "Wait, you got someone from Friends?" It's like, yeah, he's totally into it, man. I made a bet with him like 2 years ago that he had to be in a movie.
I gotta watch. You know what? We should watch this and do a full episode breakdown of Ed the movie from 1996.
Honestly, I'm 1000% in. I am now putting on the YouTube the first picture that came up. It is way too good. I need to see this ASAP. Like I cannot believe I didn't know that this existed. It's got quite bad ratings, which is why
it's like
I'm
a
even more excited.
or something, right? Like it's like really bad.
Got like a 6%. It's got a 1.5 star rating on IMDb.
It's tough.
I've never been more in on a movie that I've never heard of in my life. It being bad makes me want to see it more. I can't wait. We will be doing an episode, folks, in the future on Ed.
Yeah. That's an honorable mention. Like because I've never seen this, but I was reminded of it today at work, and I was like, yes. Like so my coworker was like, have you seen Ed? I was like, yes, I know exactly what you're talking about. The baseball movie, right? I work in baseball, obviously, so it was kind of obvious that we're talking about baseball at the time. But yeah, I just got to see it. But that's a bit of an honorable mention.
An honorable mention. I'm going to throw in some that are just funny. And you might be familiar with some of these. I think a lot of people will be familiar with these. One of them is one of my 5-10 favorite movies of all time. The other one is one of my favorite movie stars because he is the movie star GOAT. Which one would you like to hear about first, Steve?
Give me that first one.
First one. This scene is ridiculous, and I've talked about it before. I might have talked about it on the show already, so forgive me. It is not a baseball movie. It is very much not a baseball movie, but it has baseball elements. Dazed and Confused. When I first
talked about this,
hung out with Steve, or not hung out with Steve, I was on one of Steve's podcasts where he talked about big movies that he hasn't seen before and watching them for the first time and having guests on. Talked about this movie a lot. Also a movie that has something to do with gender politics, for lack of a better terminology, that ages even worse than the Wendy Peppercorn thing. Although I do adore this movie very much. It is Mitch Kramer, it's hard to call anyone in Dazed and Confused a main character, because it's basically just a hangout movie. But Mitch Kramer is the young, up-and-coming one. They're gonna, haze him and all this stuff, and he's the star pitcher. He's gonna be the next star, is basically the vibe. He's gonna be the next big popular kid. And he's about to finish his Little League game, or whatever you want to call it, and he knows that all the high school kids are about to, kick his ass after the game. And he has to get like one more batter out. He has to strike him out. And it is egregious. And the reason it is egregious is because when he's pitching, and remind you, this is supposed to be the character that's like the next Randall Pink Floyd. Randall Pink Floyd is the main character of the movie. He's a star quarterback in high school. So basically king of the school in a lot of ways, but a decent guy, sort of, if you see the movie. And Mitch, they're all chanting at him. He throws the ball to get the final strikeout of the game. And right as he's winding up and you see him throwing, the camera immediately cuts to where you can't see any arm or anything. And there's just a ball that goes way outside, and a guy swings in a way that like the ball, like he swung like the ball was down the middle, even though it was all the way on the side of the plate. It is, first of all, hilarious, and it is so obvious that they had to cut and just throw a baseball, like lay it up to the catcher or whatever, like behind the camera. And you know why that is, Steve? The actor, Wiley Wiggins, I believe is his name, for Mitch Kramer, who's also not a good actor, and whatever. This isn't even an insult. I think he does like video game coding now, by the way. Shouts to Wiley Wiggins. What a change of things. He lied about being able to play baseball. This is a real thing. You can go look it up on all the making and behind the scenes. Wiley Wiggins, when auditioning for the movie, they wanted someone who could play baseball. make sense, or at least be able to throw one pitch. And he couldn't do it. And apparently you could find some like behind the scenes videos of him trying to pitch, and it's awful. It's kind of like, speaking of Sandlot, kind of like a Scotty Small situation where he just doesn't know what he's doing. So they clearly had to cut it up to cover for it. And when you know that, it makes it funnier. And it's one of the more ridiculous. It's egregious. It's really bad. Obviously doesn't ruin the movie, but it is in my mind that this kid just finessed his way. He no experience. He Aaron Booned his way, dare I say, into getting this position. He can't even pitch. Like, do you know how bad you have to be for that? They can't show you at all. They can't even show the follow through, and then maybe you cut, and then you show the ball going down the middle. They couldn't even do that, and I just think there's something really funny about that. It's great.
See, I purposefully did not put this on mine because I knew you were going to talk about this, and like I said, like because we already talked about this. That podcast, by the way, Movies I Should Have Watched. You can go listen to it. It still exists. There's over 50 episodes of it. So
yeah,
just because it's not active
good.
doesn't
it's
mean
fun. By the way, everybody go listen. It's really
movies.
Fun.
And we did Gone with the Wind on that worst episode. So don't listen to that one. But no, if I remember correctly, too, again, I didn't put it on mine and I didn't rewatch it because I knew you were going to bring this up. I just knew it. But if I remember correctly, there's so much wrong with the lead up to that moment, too, because like the score is weird and the innings don't make sense and the outs don't, like the scoreboard is all thrown off. Like it's a complete mess of a scene. Like there was no continuity. It was like a total joke, if I remember correctly, too.
It's giving, oh, crap. We have to film a baseball scene, don't we? You know what I mean?
Does anybody know baseball? Does anybody play baseball?
Richard Linklater's like, wait, what do you mean, kid? You lied? You can't do this? We have 3 days left before we have to submit the draft for the movie. What are you talking about? And they're just desperate. So he said, all right, I got an idea. We'll just cut. And someone just go behind and throw the ball behind the camera, and then you'll see it.
Yeah, we're losing daylight. We only have a couple hours to shoot with the kids. We just got to get it done, guys.
We just got to get it in. So that has always been great for me. And now, because I mentioned it and I alluded to before I let Steve cook with his next selection, it is a movie star one. And it also has to do with not being able to throw a baseball. I need everyone. I also wrote about this for justbaseball.com. If you'd like to check it out, go under my articles. You'll find it. The greatest movie star of not just our time, but every time, it is Tom Cruise. I'm talking about a movie called War of the Worlds. Now, I like this movie. It's a classic story. That's clearly about the environment. It is an environment. That's the politics of the movie, is that we're destroying our planet. And what's fun about War of the Worlds is it's not really a war. The title's kind of a misnomer. And basically we get wiped out pretty much immediately. We have no chance. This is not Independence Day. But early on in the movie, Tom Cruise, who's kind of like a little bit of an estranged father, he's seeing his kids for the first time and he's with them. He's visiting them in Boston. I wrote about this for the site so you could go look at more detail, but it is one of the most unintentionally funny scenes when you watch it again and you focus on it. At one point, Cruise is playing catch with his son. And oh God, this is gonna be hard. There's a lot of things that I'm convinced Tom Cruise can't do because I don't think he's entirely human. We've seen this many times before. I'm convinced he's never been drunk before in his life because anytime you've watched him act where he's drunk, he does things like putting on the glasses and stuff. I'm like, you've never been drunk before. That's the vibe. Tom Cruise has clearly never thrown a baseball before. He throws the ball a little bit like a Phillip Rivers. You know what I mean? Where it's just kind of like
shot putting.
He throws, it's a half throw. I'm going to kind of like link you right now, the video actually.
Please. Doesn't he, I haven't seen this movie as you look that up, but doesn't he, I feel like I've seen a video of him throwing before. Doesn't he throw like with his, like the wrong foot forward too? Like the not the lead foot. I feel like I've seen that before.
I think it is. It is just, it also, by the way, this video has like 300,000 views on Twitter. Oh, so yeah. Like, I don't think I'm the only one that has discovered this, which makes it 10 times funnier. Here, let me DM it to you on Twitter. Okay. While Steve watches it, it's just the throwing motion. Everybody who's listening and watching this right now, you just have to take my word for it and go check it out. And it's also funny that then randomly he throws the ball, this character, so hard that it breaks a window. So it's like,
oh, I have seen this. I have seen this. That's brutal.
He throws it like I'm doing. I mean, like the way it's like he gets the initial rotation.
He glitches.
It's like he has no extension. You know what I mean? Yes. For baseball, he has no extension. Basically, is the way to summarize it. And the context.
He's throwing like he's like rehabbing a shoulder injury.
Yeah, exactly. And The reason why I think it's up there for me is because it's Cruz. And knowing what we know about him, knowing that he might not entirely be human, makes the scene funnier. And seeing him try to throw a ball and play it off, I wrote about this too, that the scene gets more and more edited. You
Yes,
see
I was just going to
more
say that they're starting to edit it out.
more cuts, as if they were like, as if someone was too scared to tell Cruz that we have to edit it like the Dazed and Confused with Wiley Wiggins. So someone behind the scenes was terrified. They're like, do you want to tell him that we're going to cut him out of a scene? No.
I like
Okay.
that they
So
are trying to throw it harder too. Like
yes.
It's like that's not how you throw harder.
They're just getting like more upset with each other. They've
Yeah,
got differentiating ball caps and all that, just to show like, oh, Yankees, Red Sox, you know what I mean? They hate each other and all that stuff.
That's good.
There's something funny about it, but the more they edit it, there's so many little nuggets of why this scene is funny. And that's why I like the idea that someone was like, Cruz can't throw, this is gonna look weird. And he's like, you want to be the one to tell him that? It's like, no, I don't. So here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna tell him it came out great. And then in post, we'll just slightly edit it so you can still see him, from behind his shoulder in some cases, but it is really funny, and it is in a movie about how aliens destroy us. So everybody go watch it. Also, I still like that movie. Some people don't. I think it's good.
I think what's also intriguing about that, just as a whole, like you said, it's Tom Cruise, obviously, and Tom Cruise is such an American boy, and for him to not be able to throw a ball in an American-made sport is just kind of funny.
It's really great, and I think this movie comes out a little bit before the like zaniness of Cruise's personal life and everything comes out. So that, in my opinion, makes it even funnier knowing what we know now. It's like, this guy isn't like entirely human, but best movie star of our time, Steve. Let's move on now. What ridiculous bad baseball movie scene would you like to have a discussion about next?
Well, I have one more honorable mention before I get to ridiculously bad.
Okay.
And it's actually kind of ridiculously good. It's cute. It's a very cute scene.
Okay.
It's in the film Hook. Have you seen Hook?
I know of Hook. Yes, I know of the Hook.
And it's a sweet moment between the child and oh my gosh, and Peter Pan, who is played by, his name is Robin Williams. My goodness,
Thank you.
I was like, come on, man. But yeah, it's just like this. It's just a little baseball scene where pirates are playing baseball. Yeah. Super normal. But really, the thing for me here in this entire scene, if you've seen it, it's really just the run home Jack versus home run Jack. It's the thing for me. So the movie podcast I used to host, Movies I Should Watch, with my best friend Alex, that you were on and you have met. That is something that Alex and I will say to each other a lot, which is just run home Jack.
Yeah.
That I wanted to just bring that up. There's really nothing else about the scene. It's kind of cute. He hits a homer and like the dad realizes that he has to be there for his son. And like, like, I just like the run home Jack, really. That's why I wanted to bring it up. I thought it was funny.
I like when he sees the sign, like the Steven Spielberg-esque like zoom in of the amazement face, the Spielberg face is what they call it. Like he almost does that for like all that. I want to give a shout to the scene, just the set design. It's alive, man. You know what I mean? Like there's so many pirates. It looks like it's something out of One Piece, frankly. I think that it's a really fun movie. It's really cute, like you said. I think that's a perfect honorable mention. And what's so funny is the reason why I wanted to talk about this, and frankly, I could do another episode talking about baseball scenes in movies, because there's so many. And there's so many in things that you don't realize. Because even though it is not the most popular league, that's especially in America, that's football, right? American football. But there's still something about the ubiquity of baseball. You don't have a random football scene in a movie that's not about football. You know what I mean? When does that happen? With the exception of The Room? You know what I mean?
That's fair.
Like where they're just talking. Like that's the only
like
one I can think of.
There's two scenes in that movie that are just random football on a rooftop in an alleyway while wearing suits.
The whole movie is a random scene, but like you don't get that. Basketball sometimes a little bit, right? But I think that there's just something about it that
Along Came Polly.
Yeah, Along Came Polly, Good Will Hunting, right? Like you have basketball scenes in these movies sometimes, but there's always baseball some ways, and it depends on what you watch, of course. But in some cases, and I'll bring up some, they come out of nowhere and they just go for it. There's something ubiquitous about baseball that everybody gets, even if it is not the sport that has necessarily the deepest and most diverse culture and the most interesting things to do with it, the most personality all the time. The movies, all these scenes, like are more fun and expressive than sometimes the literal sport of baseball can be. They're like, we don't care. And that's what they do. So shouts to Hook and shout to baseball, which is, of course, our sport.
It's also kind of funny that there's a pirate tries to steal second base and the catcher shoots him. I think that's funny. That's a good one. I have two bad scenes in non-baseball movies.
Okay.
I'd love to share. The first one was pointed out to me by my girlfriend earlier today because I was talking to her about this, and she reminded me of the scene I completely forgot about. It's in Cinderella Story.
Okay.
Have you seen Cinderella Story starring Hilary Duff and Chad Michael Murray?
No.
Okay, so I want you to go to the old tube and I want you to type in the Cinderella Story baseball scene.
I'm very excited.
So the premise of Cinderella Story, of course, is just Cinderella, right? But Cinderella told in modern age, which is like the early 2000s.
Right.
So Hilary Duff's father, spoiler alert for Cinderella Story.
Yeah.
They live in Los Angeles. Her father dies in an earthquake. Not a super common way to pass, thankfully. But he passes away in an earthquake. And they had like an incredible relationship. And it's kind of an underlying tone throughout this whole movie. I haven't seen it in a while, so this is a pretty hazy memory of it. But so Hilary Duff is playing baseball at like I think it's at the school that she's going to. Chad Michael Murray and her are unintentionally or unknowingly having a relationship on the internet, like texting each other or emailing, whatever, it doesn't matter. Like they're under usernames, so they don't know each other. And like Hilary Duff is like the loser, and like Chad Michael Murray is like the jock cool guy. Like but Hilary Duff has like a best friend, and he is pretty clearly a gay best friend as well. So that kind of plays into the scene. He is feeding a pitching machine completely randomly to Hilary Duff. Hilary Duff, terrible swings, just like absolutely terrible swings, just really, really bad. Crushing the ball, just like very obviously, like hardliners back up the box, like perfectly timed, like she can read it the whole way, like she is spitting on him like so well. And like the joke is like the best friend, he keeps like dodging them, and like he gets hit at one point, like it's just kind of like the slapsticky scene. But of course, Chad Michael Murray is playing basketball or something it over the left field fence. And Hilary Duff just magically, she's like, give me one more, like very baseball BP situation where he's like, I need one more, give me, like, I gotta finish on a good one. And gets the pitch, check swing, home run to left. I want to reiterate that, check swing, home run to left. And then of course Chad Michael Murray catches the ball, and he's like, or like his friend's like, a girl hit that one. And then he's like, that's pretty impressive. Sounds like the kind of goal for me, or whatever, like the line is. And then he throws it, and she's like, thanks. Like, you're welcome. Like, it's just like this dumb, will they, won't they? They don't know that each other exists. Very, again, Cinderella situation. But check swing, home run.
It's really funny that my guy from One Tree Hill just makes an appearance in this. One Tree Hill, by the way, one of the shows I have the biggest beef with that's ever been made. I just want to say
not enough trees for that hill.
Not enough trees for that hill. It's nothing to do with One Tree Hill as much as this was pitched to me as Friday Night Lights, except basketball. It is not Friday Night Lights, but basketball. It is more like, it is much more teenage high school drama than it is basketball. And it's
Pretty Little Liars.
Yeah, exactly. Pretty Little Liars, like that's the Vampire Diaries, which all power to you. Not beefing with that. I was pitched a different show. That's why I hate that show. So Chad Michael Murray, you are still dead to me. Another part of this scene, there is a screaming lady that she sees on the baseball as she hits it.
Yeah, so can't forget that. So that is her stepmother.
Okay. And yes, I see the check swing. It's really funny. The editing on this is like Richard Linklater would be proud. He's like, I should have done this with Dazed and Confused. The difference is I needed a strikeout. But like, I bet they brought him in. They're like, hey, how did you get around that Wiley Wiggins kid not being able to play baseball? They're like, because we got Hilary Duff. I don't know if it's going to look right when she swings the ball. You know, can she make
wearing a Dodgers hat?
Contact? Can she put the ball in the air, or is she just get Eric Hosmer and put it on the ground?
There is a gosh, you still hate Eric Hosmer. There is another part in this scene where she hits a ground ball to third.
Yeah,
and then when they cut to where the ball goes, dead center. So that's really fun. There's also just so many weird. This movie's like awful.
They literally cut after she does the check swing, just a ball going through the air like this, but it's very
Obliterated.
minimum, so it could have been anywhere. It couldn't even been on the field. They probably just threw a ball.
Yeah, just a blank canvas sky, and then it's out to left, like full 31-degree launch angle, and it's 418, like 110
this is a
off the
lost
bat.
art, man. Because today they would make it look right, or at least the special effects would look better. Back in the day, if you had an actor or actress that just didn't know how to do baseball or whatever, you just had to roll with the punches, man. They're like, all right, she did a check swing on the one ball that she hit. Whatever, right. We'll figure it out. Like, you don't get ridiculous, but genuine atrocities like that. You know what I mean? Like, it's not genuine anymore. It's all, oh, we're trying to be funny, we're trying to be clever. Instead, it was like, nah, man, people went for it, and sometimes they swung and a miss, let me tell you.
Yeah, and sometimes she check swing and hit a home run.
And sometimes you check swing.
This movie is all kinds of messed up. It's all over the place. There's also a very weird moment that I feel like I'm the only person on the planet that ever noticed. There's Hillary Duff at one point is listening to Hillary Duff. Like Hillary Duff's music. I'm like, how that's just world.
We used to be a proper country. You know what I mean? We used to be a proper country. That right there is exactly what I'm talking about.
Very confusing. I talked about that ad nauseum again on my old podcast. We covered Cinderella Story, and I went in on that one.
Should I? You know what? I'm not going to do this one because it's boring. I'm removing one of mine because it's obvious. Just a quick mention.
Just quickly mention it. Yeah.
Yeah. Quick mention. Something that doesn't necessarily age well. The voodoo stuff in Major League. Now, there's a number of things that doesn't age well in that movie, but it's really funny. It's just weird. I'm watching it like, all right, we have the blonde, like one of the two black guys. One is super duper fast, and then the other one's into practicing voodoo. It's like, all right, not the best thing in the world. Cool. But in fairness, there's a lot of, it was almost like equal. It was like equal parts offensive to like a bunch of different things in that movie. Whatever. Not to mention the literal name of the team that is the star of that movie. So it's whatever. I don't want to talk about that one. That one's boring. I've got 4 more.
You have 4 more? I have 1 more.
Okay, so I'm going to go through a couple.
I'm very worried you're going to pick mine.
I think I might. It needs to be discussed. I think that this is something that deserves a whole episode. I think that there's been a couple of articles done on this. There's probably been some oral histories done on this at some like really great well-written stuff. I didn't look that up before recording. I remember seeing one like some random like vampire baseball website. I forgot what it was called. Speaking of which,
you picked it.
Yes. It needs to be discussed. It is the baseball scene of Twilight. Everyone knows what I'm talking about. When I first saw this, first of all, and I'm not trying to say this as someone who like wouldn't like, I would absolutely have been into this stuff as a kid. I was not one of the, because like when we were growing up, when you're a guy, like you don't want to admit that you watched iCarly. You don't want to admit that you're watching Zoe 101, stuff like that. And you certainly didn't want to admit that you watched Twilight. I feel like that it fit that category of like, you don't want to admit it, but you liked it. I genuinely did not watch that stuff because I was an idiot who was like reading Marvel comics and playing video games and getting into anime. So that was the weird thing I was occasionally trying to hide, right? So I didn't come across this. I was pitched the same way I was lied to for One Tree Hill. My friend's like, dude, come on. Like I had a couple friends over, they slept over. It was a slumber party. And they're like, dude, let's watch Twilight. You're going to like it. There's action. And I'm like, okay, cool. Like, I wish that they just told me what the movie was about. Cause I would have been like, okay. Like, I don't think they realized that like, I'm in no position to judge at all, and they were like, dude, and there's even baseball in it. And I was like, oh, come on. I mean, why don't you just lead with that? And boy, is there baseball in it. I don't even think this scene deserves like we don't have to go through the whole thing. Everyone's seen it. It's probably got a bajillion.
No, I think we do.
You want to go there?
I think we need to, especially because it's my last one and you took it.
I think an underrated thing. I've had this take for a while. I'm gonna let it loose right now. Everyone's talking about Marvel. It's not the same anymore. The MCU. No. It's not that they don't put budget into their movies. No, it's not that. It's not that they treat their VFX artists horrendously. No, it's not that. It's not that they are just not putting in as much effort. That there's clearly producers pocketing money behind the scene. There's no way Secret Invasion costs $25 million an episode. It's not that. You know why it's faltering? We need more superhero related sports scenes. We need to see what it would be like if super people played sports. Remember when Andrew Garfield breaks the rim in Amazing Spider-Man? We need more stuff like that. Like I said, we used to be a proper country. In the case of Twilight, It is so ridiculous because, first of all, there have never been vampires more powerful than the vampires in this scene in Twilight. Vampires have never been that strong of a fictional character in the grand scheme of everything. It's kind of like, bro, don't you just need like some wood and then like Castlevania it and just walk upstairs and like hit people with chains and then you're good? All of a sudden, so it's Edward. So the big scene that happens in this is just they throw like a million miles an hour because they're super powered, right? I feel like they never showcase these powers all that much throughout the rest of the movies. These people are the Flash. This guy hits the ball, and then of course Kristen Stewart, shout out Kristen Stewart, is like, wow, he really hit the crap out of it. And they're like, oh, I don't know, it's 50-50. He hits it into like another state. And then they're like, yeah, but Edward's very fast. Very fast. And by the way, they say that in a tone that's like extremely sexual, like, Edward's very good. You know what I mean? It's like, he's very good. Yeah, he's so good. And of course, I mean, that's the love interest and everything. So he runs so fast to get the ball, and they run in a funny way too. By the way, it's like this.
Yeah, it's,
you know what I mean? Yes. It's like if anyone has seen The Flash, which my condolences, the Ezra Miller, like the way they portray when he goes into super speed. I don't know why they don't just do the suit, like they're afraid of that. Instead, it becomes this thing where they're like
the arms like, are slow.
And they're doing like the freestyle stroke in a swimming pool. Like they're just going like that, and they're going. That's kind of what this looks like. He gets the ball, throws it back out, and then it's like a split second thing. It's like, you're out, you know, this whole thing. And then of course a crazy fight scene happens after that, I think, but whatever.
Oh yeah.
And then a fight scene in which all of a sudden no one has like super speed anymore.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I'm like, what?
I have many thoughts.
Go, please.
So first off, I was not misled, but I misunderstood the beginning of this scene.
Okay.
So Bella is asking Edward, she right away is a little too in the know of the audience. It's like, why baseball? Straight up the scene starts with her going like, what? Like, what are you talking about? Why are we playing baseball right now? And of course, the Cullens, Edward Cullen and the Cullen family, they are all trying to like fit into American society, right? Like that's kind of the whole that's why they're like Dr. Cullen and like all these people, right? But so she's like, why are we going to play baseball right now? I'm confused. and he's like, well, it's American pastime. Like, of course, like that's he just says like, what's the American pastime? And there's a thunderstorm coming. You'll know what that means a little later. So when he said that, and they cut to them on the field, like getting loose, warming up, or whatever, and there's a massive lightning strike.
Yes.
And I can't remember her name. I don't think it's Rosalie. I don't know. My girl.
I don't remember the characters. I only know Edward and Bella. That's it.
Whatever. The pitcher, the girl who's pitching with the very elbow intensive throw, high leg kick, real high leg kick. Mm-hmm. She's like, the lightning goes off, and she's like, it's time. Like it's here we go.
Yeah.
I thought that the lightning gave them more powers.
I mean, that's fair. Again,
I thought
I can't emphasize enough that like there's like werewolves in this, not in this movie, but like in the future ones. They don't make them look that powerful. From what I've seen, they make it like they're definitely. I feel like they in the movies they're like Captain America level. You know what I mean? Like they're clearly. But this makes it like they're all the Flash now, actually.
Yeah, it's the super OP. The meta is completely broken.
The meta's broken.
The meta is it's so busted, dude. It's so busted. DPS is way OP on this. But so I have now realized that, or I have been told rather, that it's the thunder. They hit the ball so hard that it sounds like thunder.
See what I mean? Like,
so they need to hide that they're playing baseball. That's the part of it. There are so many
because they have to hide it because if they hit the ball, it'll sound too loud.
It'll sound like thunder, and people will be like, "But it's overcast in Forks, Washington. How could there possibly be thunder? We have to play specifically during thunderstorms."
That makes it even better.
Very weird. Yeah, I don't know what's worse, that a lightning potentially gave them power in my head, or that they had to hide it through a thunderstorm. So then there's a scene. So I think it's Jasper is batting, and he spins the bat. Like he actually does like a pretty sick move as he's coming to the plate. Like he kind of like spins the bat, and like flips it and stuff. But behind him is Rosalie, and Rosalie is like, you gotta pull up the scene again because she's in the background, Hav. You have to see this. So Rosalie while Jasper is like flipping the bat very coolly, Rosalie is sitting there like flipping it like half a rotation at a time, very concentrated to not screw up, very uncoordinated, very does not have hand-eye coordination. It's very amazing. I love it so much.
There's
That it's
so
just in the
many.
background, like they're like, yeah, why don't you just like do something cool? Like he's like spinning the bat and doing like these tricks and stuff. Like I need you to do the same thing. And she's like, huh, huh, like got it. Okay, didn't drop it in that take. Awesome.
My guy with the snapback hat at the beginning of this, when they're like warming up, if you just look up Twilight Baseball, see Edward makes some motion to him, and then the guy comes in and he's like, oh, 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 like he just does that for a second. Like, what
That's
are
how
you
you
doing?
get loose, dude.
That's how you get loose. Like it's just
That's
so
how you get
funny.
loose. Yeah.
Everything about that scene, the way the ball gets hit out, and then they do that zoom in on Edward going, oh, like
Monkey Man. There's like she's like, oh, Monkey Man. Like he climbs the tree and catches the ball.
It's so silly.
It's
I like that
crazy.
Bella all of a sudden it's established that these people are moving at supersonic speeds, that she'll be able to tell if you're safe or out at home plate. No offense to her, she doesn't have. Does she get powers later? I assume she does.
Later in the franchise, yes.
Later in the franchise.
Which
The franchise.
Really, if you think this goes off the rails here, it really goes off the rails. We
I've
also
been told.
completely have not mentioned this is all set to supermassive black hole ideas.
It's masterful. I mean, it's got millions of views. There's been a lot of articles on it, so don't just take it from us. I think everyone knows this one. It's beautiful. But like, I'm being serious. I better have the X-Men playing baseball in one of their next movies. It needs to happen. And by the way, fun fact, the X-Men have a history of baseball in the comic books. They play it all the time. This is not like they just happen to. No, it's like all the time with them for some reason. Like that's what we need. It would just be fun. It would be loose. You need a hangout scene. Mm-hmm. Marvel.
Mm-hmm. This scene makes no sense. Like it's only used as a vehicle to lead to like the conflict. That's really all it is. It's like, now here come the bad vampires.
And apparently a vehicle for how to trick idiot young Javier into watching Twilight. Just be like, yeah, man, we got a baseball scene. Come on. You want to see it?
+1 rent right there, dude. They got you.
Exactly. Speaking of uncharted speed, I'm going to bring up something you've definitely not heard of for my next most ridiculous scene. It is an anime, and the anime is called Assassination Classroom. You're already in, aren't you?
That's a great name.
So I'm going to read the synopsis on Wikipedia because they'll explain it better than me. Earth is left in jeopardy after an enormously powerful tentacled creature, a smiling yellow fellow, by the way, basically kind of like Pac-Man if he was tentacly, suddenly appears and destroys 70% of the moon, leaving it in the shape of a crescent. The creature claims that within a year, he will destroy the planet next. However, he offers mankind a chance to avert this fate by going to the worst school in Japan, the worst class in Japan, and those kids have to try and kill him. Tell me you're not in. Tell me you're not in.
It's just like Steve. 9 ideas in one.
I know. What's so fun about this, and by the way, genuinely, I was almost like a full bucket, like when you have a leak in your house, of tears by the end of this series. It's only 2 seasons. I know it sounds ridiculous, but basically this smiling creature is just going to teach them, and they have to try and kill him, and they can do it at any time they want. When he's teaching class, there's one problem. He's very strong, obviously, as evidenced by destroying the moon. He flies at Mach 20 speed.
Same.
Steve, do you know the fastest Mach speed ever achieved in the history of
based on Top Gun Maverick? No, I don't know.
Mach 6.72. So basically, this guy's faster than all the people in Twilight combined that we were just mentioning.
Hey,
and if you're also
careful, a little treading in heavy waters, man.
I know.
Put some respect on the Cullen family.
Put some respect on the Cullen family. Here's what I will say. If you're wondering, by the way, how is it that they could just let kids like try and like shoot at this guy? He can't be killed by like traditional human weaponry. He gives the kids like these like green things that are like rubber, but they kill him. So like they're rubber, they'll just like boink off of regular people, the pellets, all that. But for him, it'll like pop one of his tentacles, and he uses it on himself all the time. He also regenerates, by the way. So that's the fun of the story. And also, you're wondering, why did he go to the worst class? Why specifically the worst class? Why is he bothering to teach them? Like legitimately teach them. That's the fun of the show. If you guys are in, if you want to watch, this is what I mean. This is what's fun about anime. Who the heck comes up with nonsense like this? So the baseball scene. They call him Kuro Sensei. Guess what he really likes? He loves baseball. That's what he loves. There's a whole episode in this series when they have to play baseball against the best school in the country. And their pack of loser miscreants have to find a way to win. And he's super fast and can like change the strike call real quick, make the pitch go a little bit to the left, all that sort of nonsense. And he's such a fan. There's literally a scene in this that I beg everyone to look up where he just leaves for a little bit, which is basically 2 minutes, flies across the country to go to a Yankees game. He's just in the stands disguised. And he's just like, yay! Like he loves baseball. So there's a lot of stuff. And frankly, what's really fun is that, Japan, they love baseball, obviously. So you will find a lot of like baseball related scenes in a lot of animes that you watch, whether it be one-off specials or it be something like this. I recommend it. There's a whole episode where they have to teach one of the kids how to become an ace pitcher and like strike anybody out. And he could just like literally fly across the country and back in 3 minutes, basically. That's how fast he is. So it's really beautiful. I recommend everyone check it up. It is very weird. It is definitely like a crazy it's like a crazy anime in a lot of ways. It's just absolutely insane. But if that plot point doesn't sell you, I don't know what will. And I promise you, the ending is so much sadder. The story is it goes in so many directions that you're not expecting. It's so ridiculous, but I recommend it. Another one, speaking of anime, and I've got two more. I've got one anime and one regular one.
Okay.
The next one is from a beautiful show that is not, I wouldn't call it ridiculous. It's much more serious. It's called Samurai Champloo. This is an anime basically about, you guessed it, samurai. You ever heard of Cowboy Bebop by any chance?
Yeah, of course.
Same person who did Cowboy Bebop did this. Have you ever heard of Nujabes, hip-hop artist? He is widely credited with creating the lo-fi genre. He did the soundtrack for this show. It is Japanese mixed with like hip-hop, basically. Like the music is all throughout it, bangers throughout. It's a bittersweet show. It can be really dark at times. There's an episode that basically postulates the idea of quite literally everything in your life being decided where you are born, and you are never going to escape that, your socioeconomic status, stuff like that. But then the penultimate episode of the series is called Baseball Blues, and it is amazing. And the reason it isn't amazing is because it's kind of like a dark comedy. This episode, the reason it's a dark comedy is because Americans are like travel to Japan. This takes place back, by the way, like early, like this isn't modern day at all. So Americans, they're exploring, you know what I mean? And they are portrayed as like animalistic, like slobs, which makes it so much funnier, by the way. It's like, yeah, correct. And they're like, and they're just like, oh, play baseball, like the ugly American thing. And it's great. They just fit all the stereotypes. And the three main characters, they get challenged by some way to a baseball game to try and get these people to leave, right? And they don't know how to really play, right? It's in context of this show, they've never heard of baseball before. You know what I mean? So that's the fun part. And they're playing it like samurais would swing their sword. So the one guy holds the sword, like the bat, like down, and that's how he swings, and he hits a home run. And it's really funny. They're like, why is he standing like that? The other guy is just a dirty fighter, and he just finds a way to cheat. It's really funny. But the reason why I like it best is because they basically take the strategy of let's just beat the crap out of the other team. And they just start hurting each other to the point where like everyone's like out of commission by the end. And that's like, oh, we can't play anymore. They have to leave, the Americans. And what they have to do, I'm trying to make sure that I pull this up. What they have to do is while they run away onto their ship, and then there's a narration that happens that has made me laugh to this day. Let me see if I get it here. At the very end, it says, hold on, let me make sure I get this real quick. And so the game was over after one short inning, by the way. Yes, it was one. It was one inning of chaos.
Run rule.
And so the game was over after one short inning, and the Americans went home with a profound fear of Japanese people.
Is that's the 2023 World Baseball Classic, right?
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what it was. They saw the Ohtani thing. They're, oh my God. It's very dark comedy. It's very satirical. It's making fun of Americans and how we view things, obviously. More than
when
most.
They saw Roki Sasaki's
spinner.
Like, what? How am I supposed to hit that? He's 19.
There's just something about that final line. It's just it's a dark comedy, very satirical. They're making fun of everything and this profound fear of Japanese people because they tried to play baseball against them and they almost got killed or whatever. So highly recommend that. I actually think you can find the full episode on Hulu, and I think you can actually see like just some of the baseball scenes on YouTube. So I recommend checking that up. It's very silly because then the series finale, it's only one season, 26 episodes. The series finale comes next, and it is very much not fun. It is very dark, very messed up. So that's what it gets. Kind of everybody's past comes back to haunt them in a lot of ways, similar to Cowboy Bebop. Last scene though, Steve. Here's the thing. We talk a lot about who's the greatest fictional player ever. If you did a fictional baseball character draft, what would you do, right? We talk about Benny the Jet. Talk about Roy Hobbs in The Natural. You talk about apparently Hillary Duff in Cinderella Story. Apparently Hillary Duff. You talk about Pablo Sanchez from the backyard sports, actually, in general games, all that. We need to talk about my man, the selfish diva that he is, Bobby Rayburn, from a movie called The Fan. Have you ever heard of The Fan?
I don't know any of this. This is all new.
So I'm going to say the cast, the stars of this movie, and you're going to be shocked you've never heard of it. Do you have any guesses for who this film stars?
Steve, do you have any guesses for the movie stars of a movie you've never heard of?
I'm just having fun.
Yeah. Let's go with Charlie Chaplin. I don't know. What am I supposed to say?
Jack Black is in this movie.
Okay, that's surprising.
John Leguizamo is in this movie.
Okay.
Benicio del Toro is in this movie. My Puerto Rican king. That's, you bet your butt, by the way, that's the reason we're talking about this. Wesley Snipes and Robert De Niro are the two stars of this movie.
Is this feels like Valentine's Day or
oh no, it is not.
It was like late or like early 2010s, like, oh, we're gonna just throw every star. Like, here's George Lopez, Cameron Diaz, here's like Antonio Banderas, here's everybody in one movie.
There's that one movie, I think it's a movie called Valentine's Day, and there's another one called like Movie 42, where it features like 42. Everyone.
Yeah, but that's like a weird.
And apparently it's absolute garbage. But
yeah, it's not that great. It's not. It was supposed to be a funny year, and I don't think it landed.
We need one of those back. We need one of. We need to do? We need to do like Rat Race again. And just have like 6 famous people, right?
What a weird film.
Put Glenn Powell, put Jenna Ortega, put I don't know, but like young up and coming stars that aren't quite at the level where they're going to cost 80 bajillion to get them in. So like you can't have Chalamet in there. Have some young stars and then have like one old one. Like throw Chevy Chase in there for some reason. I don't know. It'd be funny.
Oh, I'm sure he would be I'm sure this would be a great situation to throw him in there.
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely. It'd be great. Here's the thing. This movie is about a fan, Gil Renard. He's a troubled baseball team, and his favorite team is the San Francisco Giants, who just signed I love this, by the way, a $40 million contract with his favorite player, Bobby Rayburn. Right? Like that's like considered like top of the line when this movie came out, which is back in 1996. He gets signed to a big deal, and guess what? He stinks. He's a bust. He's a 3-time MVP, but he's not doing it. The equivalent of Mike Trout got traded, and then he was hitting 190 for some reason when he first got there. And everyone's losing their mind. But Robert De Niro, he's like, no, it's Bobby. You can find compilations, I'm pretty sure, of this movie of just Robert De Niro saying Bobby. Hey, Bobby. He says it like 100
watching you.
Yeah. He's literally saying that, and everyone's starting to turn on him. And he's like, oh, but that's my favorite player. Nah, he's got it, man. He's obsessed, right? It's kind of like if Fever Pitch was directed by like Michael Mann. Like that's kind of like, it's a psycho thriller. Now I'm just going to lift the veil. This is not a fun movie. Basically what happens is Bobby Rayburn will do, or not Bobby Rayburn, Robert De Niro's character will do literally anything to make sure that Bobby does well, including, spoiler alert for anybody out there, murdering the teammate that was taking at bats from him in the shower.
I think that's a realistic response. I think you should do that.
That's what he does, because the guy, oh, by the way, I'm sorry, it wasn't that he was taking at bats. Bobby, being a little bit of a diva, he was upset that this new guy took his number, his jersey number, and Bobby's struggling. So Robert De Niro naturally is like, I got to kill that guy so that way he could get his number back. That's what he does. He, for some reason, has like the stealth skills of like Black Widow and is able to just sneak in and just kill some guy in the shower. Benicio del Toro. He does everything, including at one point saves Bobby Rayburn's kid from drowning to then get invited to his house, and they just, but he doesn't know this guy's basically a super stalker. He's psychotic. He's crazy. So here's why. It is the most ridiculous baseball scene. The end of the movie. So after this event happens, he saves the kid and they basically hang out. But Bobby starts saying things like, I don't care about the fans. You know what I mean? Like the fans, like if you do well, they love you. But as soon as you don't, then all of a sudden they hate you. So why am I gonna? And then, Robert Jr.'s like, hey, but we pay for your everything. Do all this. So what does he do? He kidnaps his son. And what does he do? Threaten to kill him unless in their game that night, Bobby Rayburn hits a home run or he will murder his child. This is a real final scene. And what happens? This is why Bobby Rayburn needs to be at the top of everybody's draft boards. He mother effing does it. There's nothing that has been more clutch in the history of movies than your son's life being on the line. Not if you get a hit, not if you just show up to the game, not if you get contact. You have to hit a home run. And he does. And it's dramatic because it's raining at the end. He only has one at bat left, right? He hasn't done it yet. I think he gets like a single, but that's not enough, right? So, or at one point, I think he gets a walk and he doesn't want to walk. And he's like, no, call that a strike, like that type of thing. It's super intense. Nobody knows where the kid is, all that stuff.
Just so to even play under those circumstances.
How do you even play? Like, he has no choice.
Like an hour and a half before first pitch. Where I'm gonna go take some soft toss.
He's been threatening him this whole time. He's like, you got to go to the game and you got to do this. And if you say anything to anybody, then the kid's dead. I'll make him into a whatever. What is that? Taxidermy? Is that what that's called when you stuff things?
Oh,
I think he makes some comment about that. Yeah,
delicious. I like that. That's great.
Yeah, crazy, right?
It's a nice family film.
It's a nice family film, guys. And first of all, De Niro is just like, kings of comedy. De Niro, you know what I mean? Like just going absolutely psycho. Hey, Bobby! I mean, he says it like 1,000 times. I can't emphasize enough how many times said throughout the whole movie. He's ridiculous. He's mentally disturbed. Obviously, I don't know why I'm even bothering to say that.
You don't say.
You don't say. So the last at bat, he hits the ball. It's not a home run. So he tries to go inside the park. Right? I got you right where I want you to. I know you're locked in. He hits it. He's running around third. He's got to get to home plate. Dude. He slides and he makes it. But then the umpire calls him out. And he's like, what the hell? So obviously, this is the most appropriate reason for a player ever gets a bat at a wrong call. And guess who the umpire is?
C.B. Buckner.
It's Robert De Niro. He murdered the umpire and then put on the disguise. And then he's talking. He's like, hey, get out of here. And Bobby's looking at him like, and then he could tell. And then he throws. I think they get into a fight. It's this giant thing. All the cops are on the field. You got to look this up, man.
It's like a Kit Henson hit Dottie and Dottie hung on, and then it turned into a horror film.
Yeah, exactly. It's like it turned into the farm scene in Logan. It's like all that, and then he's got the knife and everything coming at him. He kills one guy, some other player. It seems that's another murder.
You know what they should have had was they should have brought in the Cullens. If they would have brought in the Cullens, I think they would have won the fight.
But here's the thing, man. Robert De Niro is like on the Joker stuff. He would have kidnapped one of their kids somewhere. He would have planned for it somehow.
5 steps ahead.
He's planned for everything. He's 5 steps ahead. And then what happens? I forgot. I think he like lifts up his knife or does something dramatic or whatever. And then the police naturally shoot the shit out of him. And that's
Hannibal
the end of the
Lecter
movie.
meets the Rookie meets a league of their own.
Correct. And again, that's what I'm going to end off with. Everyone sleep tight. I hope you enjoy that, right? But seriously,
this better have been a daytime listen for you.
It's a very fun. Watch it with like a friend and appreciate the absurdity. It does get like dark in a way. That's why it's not a very good movie. It's not.
Oh, this gets dark.
It's like it's not done well. So like the ridiculousness is you're supposed to take it seriously. Like they meant for it to be taken seriously and be a commentary on like fan obsession and sports politics and like Bobby having a good point where he's like, yeah, like they're going to hate me. So, you know what I mean? Like, why do I owe them anything if they're just going to hate me if I don't do well? right? So I was like, that's actually a good point, my guy. But it's so ridiculous. It's one of those movies that's like just tension. You're gonna feel like a lot of like, oh my god, what's gonna happen here? So don't worry on that regard. It's still worth watching. But I really do think when I do coming soon on this podcast, the fictional baseball player draft. I mean, Steve, seriously, what has ever been done? Forget the 28-3 comeback in the Super Bowl. Forget real life. Has there ever been a more clutch sports moment ever?
Yeah, that's like I can't even. You can't. Well, was it clutch? He was out.
No, but he wasn't. The umpire,
Yeah,
De Niro.
Did we have a review? Did
yes,
we review it?
Yes, it is. It's made very obvious that he was safe, but De Niro, being the psycho that he is, calls him out because he wants to cause more
perfect
chaos.
game. Gallardo's perfect game. Very obviously out at first.
Jim Joyce, is that you at home plate?
AJ Brzezinski, very clearly. 2005 American League championship. Very
what?
clearly.
If they remade this movie, I hope that Jim Joyce, they would be like, we want you to be the umpire that the psycho kills to take place, because it would just be a really funny like little meta commentary for baseball fans.
And then he's just like, I screwed up that kid. I screwed up that kid's day. Like he told the media after, like, I really screwed up that literal kid.
And to make it more appealing, maybe he doesn't. He's stabbed and he's hurt somewhere, right? And he's like, but he makes.
Because he still got to call the Gallardo game. So like,
yeah, exactly. So he's still got to call. So
this is the timeline of Earth 52.
This is prequel. So there you go. That's my last one, folks.
I like it.
Steve, let's recap all of the stuff that we talked about today. I'll go first with mine. Wendy Peppercorn's the makeout scene, and the Sandlot. Mitch Kramer being unable to throw a ball and Dazed and Confused. Tom Cruise being able to not throw a ball, and clearly producers and directors being too scared to tell him that by editing around the scene. Everything in the Twilight game. Everything in the Assassination Classroom episodes. The Samurai Champloo baseball episode. And then the ending of The Fan.
For mine, obviously, Ed starring Matt LeBlanc. Don't forget, Ed starring Matt LeBlanc. A monkey plays baseball. Don't forget about that. The honorable mention of Run Home Jack in Hook, just because I think it's cute and funny, and a space stealer gets shot in a G-rated film, maybe PG, I don't know. The check swing home run by Hilary Duff in Cinderella Story, and of course a collective pick by both you and I, the infamous baseball scene of between the Cullens and the Cullens, or whoever else is playing in that, in Twilight. Of course, that's the absolute goated best bat scene in a non-baseball movie.
Absolutely. I have no idea how I'll rank these. Maybe it'll just be a list.
That's
honestly.
number one. That's just number one. Just
which one?
Twilight. Come on, dude. Like,
I think Twilight's number one, and I think The Fan is number two.
I'll go with that. I'm cool with that. But
I think I'm cool with
Twilight,
that.
Nothing beats Twilight.
And then you mind if I just randomize the rankings? I'll go based off the vibes of the episode. I think.
Yeah, based on vibes.
Because clearly we were very organized and fully thought this entire.
Yeah. We didn't have another episode planned in the middle of this too. That has not been done. That is not already done on my part. But we'll leave that for another day.
Yes, we will. But regardless, this has been a fun, little silly, little crazy episode of Baseball versus the World, the podcast about how baseball relates to the rest of the world and how the rest of the world relates to baseball. Steve, what would you like to plug for the good people before we head out?
Yeah, we talked about it a little bit. I work for the Springfield Cardinals, AA affiliate of the St. Louis Cardinals here in the Texas League. So if you are a Cardinals fan and you're looking for like prospect stuff, I'm right here. Just like look up the Springfield Cardinals on YouTube. If you're already watching this here on the YouTube side, then just go look up the Springfield Cardinals. I sit down with some of the top prospects in the Cardinal system, guys like Max Rajic, Tink Hence, who else I sat down with? Nathan Church, Takoa Roby, some of the top guys right now in the Cardinal system. With more coming, we're going to be sitting down with Quinn Matthews, who was just pitching in the Futures game the other day, had a real nice inning. And then we'll be talking to Cooper Jerby as well. So another top prospect. So we're going to have a whole bunch of top prospects on the Springfield Cardinals YouTube channel. So definitely go check that out if you want to go listen to the old movies I should have watched and you like this kind of stuff. We had Javi on for Dazed and Confused. That was the only episode you did, right? Was Dazed and Confused?
I believe it was just Dazed, yeah.
Yeah, I feel like we had you planned to do more, and then we stopped.
Yeah, and you started like doing really cool like job stuff. And
then I started working for the Yankees and stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
That kind of threw off the vibes. But yeah, the Dazed and Confused episode is super fun. The Cinderella Story episode is like a total mess and a joke. But my absolute favorite episode has nothing to do with baseball. I guess it has a little bit to do with tennis. B-Movie was probably one of our most successful episodes.
B-Movie.
So you can go listen to that. Again, it's movies I should have watched, but you can just find all that stuff on my Twitter, which is Steve Granado.
Absolutely. Go check out me on Twitter, the best handle in the game, at JAVIIPENO, the legendary Jalapeno. Go follow the show account for Baseball versus the World at Baseball vs. World. So not the because that was taken, I think. So just a little under the hood. Baseball vs. World. Also go check out the Instagram where we've been posting graphics of what I just mentioned, like what we're going to rank at the top 10 here, including the most, dare I say, engagement baity thing, which was last week's worst uniforms in the history of baseball graphic.
I saw that thing pop.
I stand by basically all of them except for maybe one or two. But I stand by the Yankees one, I promise.
And then you're going to talk about that on a Patreon episode, which you can go to subscribe to right now, patreon.com/baseball versus the world.
Exactly. So everybody go check that out on Twitter at Jalapeno and all that stuff, blah, 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 blah. Until next time, until the next adventure, stay golden, stay lovely, be positive, and of course, love baseball. We'll see you next time.